Alright, Oathbringer review. Oathbringer is the third book, Stormlight Archive. This was a huge book, biggest book I've ever read, and that's why it's part of it's going to be the longest, one of my longer reviews, because almost 1,300 pages, and it's a part of my new favorite series ever, the Stormlight Archive. This is a mass market paperback, the big one's on my shelf. I love this book. This was a great book. You should definitely read it if you've read the Stormlight Archive. But it was my least favorite out of the kind of the new of the series. Like it was a good book. It was still on the level of Stormlight. The Stormlight's on a different level than all the books I've read. Most of the books I've read. But it was really on the lower end of that level for me. I loved Way of Kings the most, and Way of Kings was like, this is the best book ever. I love this book, and then I was like, and then the next book in the series, I was like, this is like one of my favorite series ever after I read that book. Same level, same characters. The characters were all good. I liked the characters in this book, but it wasn't just as packing a punch. And one of the reasons for this is basically because we kind of get into more of like the odium things. Like I kind of like the smaller storylines, the little plots. Like with Kaladin, there's less of that in this book, but it's still enjoyable. I still liked odium, and with the final battle was epic. But I kind of like the smaller things, but that's just a preference. This book goes into each Stormlight book goes into different characters. This one goes into Dalinar. Dalinar is the king, not the king, the king's brother. He's good. He's kind of a good person whenever we meet him in the first book. And then you kind of see, like, he's terrible, like, in his flashbacks, which is 30 years ago, which is a long time ago, which he's pretty old. He didn't even just kill because it was the right thing to do. He killed because he was angry. Very terrible person. And you learn that, and there's no redeeming qualities right now with him. Well, right now we love Dalinar in the present, but Dalinar in the past is very, very bad. Like, spoiler alert. Leave now, please. Yeah, I should have said that. But Dalinar, like, it comes to the point where he was so angry, like, and he was angry at this person, and then his wife was in a building. He thought the other person was in, and he burns down the building. So he burned down his wife, which is not great, Dalinar. And then like that was obviously not the best thing to happen for him. So he kind of loses all his redeeming qualities, and basically he walks into this forest and some god. He has it doesn't have any memories, so he can still be redeemed as like a person. And that's why he didn't remember Evie, his wife, but he didn't remember him, and then he kind of started getting those memories back of his wife. Yasna came back in this book. I didn't really care. Like, Yasna, she was a good character, but like, I accepted her death in the last book. And, Adolin killing Sadeas, that was cool. Whenever, yeah, and Adolin, because the Sadeas deserved it, and then, like, he was kind of like, didn't want to get caught. Kaladin, in this book, he goes, at the start, he goes and meets his parents, which we have never heard of before this book, and he kind of apologized because he failed his mission on saving Tien, which is his younger brother that we learned died in the first book. Because he went to work to try to save him, but it didn't really work out that way. He died, and in the Way of Kings we saw how Kaladin mourned, and he was grumpy as usual. That's normal Kaladin. And then, but he meets his parents, and then he said, "I apologize, his fault." That's what he said. And then the parents, they kind of like, yeah, I mean, they thought both of them were dead because they just didn't hear for them. And Kaladin was branded a slave. The cool part about this was some of the guards for his parents' house, they kind of wanted to throw him in jail because he still had the brand mark on his forehead because he was branded a traitor whenever he killed the Shardbearer. And then, so they wanted to throw him in prison, and then the dad was like, no, like, that's his son, and why would they do that? Which was cool, and then he learned out his little brother or sister, I can't forget. And it's really cool. Dalinar and Kaladin did like a lot of cool stuff in this book. Of course, though, as with all the Stormlight books, the person whose backstory we're getting is always the most interesting, and the people kind of take a back seat in the other books, with the exception of Kaladin. I like Kaladin and everyone, but a little bit less in this book because it was just like less of him. But Kaladin can basically fly at this point. Kaladin Stormblast, which is really, really cool. All props to that. Kaladin is still a good character. I love Kaladin in Words of Radiance and in Way of Kings. He's an amazing character. He's just like, I don't know, like, just because he's very grumpy sometimes, and like, that's it, like, it's not a regular character. As in, like, he's grumpy, he's not just, oh yeah, I'm going to save the world. He doesn't really, he wants to do what's best, obviously, because, like, that's what happens, one of his storylines, but he's just always grumpy, and that's why Syl is there. That's, like, why Syl's a character, and that's really good. Like, Syl's a very good character. It kind of sounds silly once you kind of, like, just hear it, but then Kaladin kind of needs Syl. I'm not sure Pattern or others, Spren. I'm not sure about them. Like, I'm not a big fan, but Syl, I like Syl. Shallan's basically a scribe, in drawing stuff. She has two personalities, Veil and Radiant, which is very confusing. I was a little confused. I was the most confused I've ever been in Stormlight. But still, it was good. I liked it. At the end, what's his name? Adolin and Shallan get married, which is cool. I mean, yeah, I like Adolin as a character, but yeah, I like it. Like, Adolin's one of the best, cause yeah, I like Adolin I think him and Kaladin are my favorite characters, and then Navani. They're all pretty cool. Because this is a very character-driven story. So all of these characters are basically my favorite, because this is so dense, and the characters, you, like, know them, and if he kills one of them off, I'm going to jump off something. Because he spends so much time getting to know them, literally thousands of pages. Because they go into each other's backstories, if you didn't know. Way of Kings, Kaladin's backstory. Words Radiant, Shallan's backstory. Oathbringer is Dalinar's backstory. I'm not quite sure who Rhythm or Force backstory is. I'll look, because now I'm done with Oathbringer. But they end up getting married. Dalinar is a flower girl. Just kidding. He's not. But that was cool to think about. And it was cool. I really can see where it goes. I'm expecting Rhythm of War to be the same kind of vibe. But I have full expectations for the 5th book to blow me away. And that, like, because, like, there's so much potential here in a book series like this one. And I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to read it in 2 days, which, if I get that 5th book one, if Rhythm of War is just as good. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. Very good. It's just not on the level as I put the first 2 books. Like, if this was any other book series, I would put it 5 out of 5 stars. But just because of the level of the first 2 books, like, they're pushing the ceiling, and this one has still reached that ceiling level, but they're not pushing it. Like, If this was any other book series, it would be a 5 out of 5. But just because of, like, I rate things weird. Just because of, like, really I'm not feeling it. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. But overall, it was a great read, and it was the longest book I've ever read, but I don't regret it. It took me about a week to read. This will probably be the longest book I've ever read in a long time. Oathbringer has that kind of crown for now. Right now, I'm beginning to read the last book, The Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. I'm really, really excited for this book. My first Star Wars book. I'm going to be reading more viciously because I'm going to be reading Wheel of Time once every month, hopefully more. I'm probably going to pick up the speed for Wheel of Time after my birthday starts. But for this year, I'm probably going to do a sci-fi TBR video pretty soon, because I have very big sci-fi goals. Again, I'm going to finish the Dune Chronicles. I'm going to get into the EU of Star Wars and some of the canon books, not the Aftermath trilogy or any of the books that tie into the sequels, because I'm just not interested in that kind of stuff. But Master and Apprentice, I'm going to get into. But I forget all the Thrawn trilogy, the canon one. Not the canon one. The EU, I'm very interested to get into. And I'm reading Darth Plagueis. Why am I getting off track? This is an Oathbringer review. My bad. Yeah, so I like to give you an update on what I'm reading right now and what I'm going to be reading. I'm going to make a sci-fi TBR video just because I really just need to get into sci-fi. I'm going to read Red Rising and the Expanse series next year. Alright, so, yeah, that was very long. I don't know why I'm just talking forever. This is the longest review I've ever done. It's 12 minutes. So, well, see you in the next video, I guess.